I think you said something about recording it. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
So we recorded.
Got it.
So listen, we are very fortunate this evening to have Ron Simmons, who is, I'm not going to go into, I'm going to let him talk about the work that he's done. He is a 4-time Tony Award winner. He is one of the greatest right now producers, and he has a play. He's also produced Too Proud to Brag. What is it? Ain't Too Proud.
Ain't Too Proud.
Ain't Too
Right.
Proud. And also a phenomenal play that many of us only have seen, Thoughts of a Colored Man, which is phenomenal. And I said to Ron when I went to see it, what it felt like seeing the play is like, I felt like I was at home. You felt like you were with family. And that's the feeling you got with the play. And I know, Paul, you saw it as well. You know, so that's the feeling that you get. So we definitely want to make sure we all support the play, but we brought Ron in to just talk about his story and his journey. And the work that he's done in regards to producing and the plays that he produces, and why he produces the plays that he does, because many of his plays really deal with issues that a lot of people don't really talk about, and they really tell our story. So Ron is a leader in that space right now, and just telling that Black experience. So we are very fortunate to have him this evening to talk about his story and his journey. And Mike leads the discussion, so I'm going to turn it over to Uncle Mike.
No, that's great, Ron. We're so happy that you've joined us, and I'm going to just actually turn it over to you. And I'm sure a lot of us have a lot of questions, so I hope we get a chance to do a Q&A. So you could just share your story, your journey with us. We're anxious to hear.
Happy to see it. How much time would I ideally have? Because you know I can talk a lot.
Yeah, I've been watching your interviews.
So you know what I'm talking about, okay?
Well, the format that we normally have, we usually give our speakers like a good 15 minutes to just present something, and then the Q&A will guide the conversation. So we more or less our interests.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I'm Ron Simons. I am a producer. I produce independent films. I do podcasts, though not so much as right now, and then theater, both Broadway, off-Broadway, sometimes regional. So I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Simon Says Entertainment, which is www.simonsaidsentertainment.com, which is very easy to find. And I started this company about 12 years ago. But before I go from 12 years ago, let me go back to when I was in college, because I went to college here in New York City, where I'm based. And I studied computer science, but it was so long ago, it was called information systems. And then theater arts, which they didn't have one, so it was kind of an English degree. And so when I graduated, I had to decide whether or not I was going to go into the arts. Of reasons, most of which was that my grandparents were already retired and my mother was about to retire. Someone needed to be the breadwinner. And I'm sure most of us know that that generation often did not know about investments. They don't know about money markets, REITs, any of that stuff. So I felt like that was my responsibility to be fiscally responsible for them. And it was a moral question of like, I can't leave them hanging. So anyway, I decided to go into computer science, and I worked in the Bay Area for a number of years in Silicon Valley. And then I finally went around and went back to school. I got an MBA. Then I came back to the West Coast. I got an MFA in acting. Then I came back to the East Coast for the third time, and I started acting. And that was in 2000 and maybe 2001. And then I eventually got my MFA at the University of Washington at the Professional Actor Training Program. So that's just a quick sketch of who I am and how I got to be a producer, because I still act. I'm an actor and a producer. But the reason why I just started producing was because I was seeing a lot of mediocrity on stage and on screen. And I thought, there's so many more stories about us that are not being told. You know, there's so many of these same old slave, you know, anything that's subservient, as long as we were on the down end of like the structure. And I said, you know what, I think I can do mediocre. In fact, I think I can do a little better than mediocre. So I just hung up my shingle and said, I'm going to be a producer. Ain't read a book, ain't watched a movie about it, didn't have had no friend, no mentor. I just threw myself into it like Nike, just do it. So of course, there are a lot of mistakes that I made. I did a lot of falling down and getting back up, and a lot of falling down and getting back up. But I have to say, I am absolutely certain that this point in my life is supposed to be doing producing. And I know that because I just have a lot of hardware, like, you know, the Tonys and my films all premiered at Sundance for the first 4. That doesn't happen. That's not a regular thing. All that is, I couldn't have planned for that, but I wasn't doing the work because I cared about awards. You know, I was really doing the work because I wanted to hear our voices told. So going back to where I started, the first thing that I did was a film called Night Catches Us with Kerry Washington and Anthony Mackie and Wendell Pierce, who's a friend of mine and a badass actor. And then I started doing more films. And then my first play that I did was Porgy and Bess, which is where I won my first Tony Award, and where Audra McDonald, I think she won her 5th Tony for that show, if I'm not mistaken. But I was very proud of the story of what I'm doing. And what my job is, and what I've set up the company to do, is to tell every story. That is our registered trademark, tell every story. So we want to tell the story of underrepresented communities. And so a lot of the work is about African Americans, because, you know, that's me and who I am. But, you know, occasionally we also do work, you know, about subcultures, you know, LGBTQ, you know, women, the environment, basically the stories that aren't often mainstream, but still need to be told. So now recently, I started producing, and this year, for the first time ever, I'm going to be a lead producer on Broadway. In fact, I'm already a lead producer on Broadway because the show has opened, and that's called Thoughts of a Colored Man. And so while I was working on that, I learned so much and continue to learn so much. And I definitely have to say, I am so proud of every single person who was part of this, because it's an important story. And those of you guys who have seen it, you know, can comment as you will. But the reason why I did that story is because it felt that all 3 of my criteria for doing a new play, a new story, whatever, which is to say, it has to have high artistic integrity, commercial viability, and be about underrepresented communities. So that's the trifecta. And that is what Thoughts of a Colored Man is. I read that script and I saw my uncle in it, my granddaddy, my best friend, my nephew, in all of these characters. And I saw myself in each of those 7 characters. And for those of you who don't know, the story is about 7 African-American men over a 24-hour period in a gentrifying neighborhood in Brooklyn. So this is the words I use are raw and authentic. It's not trying to be highbrow and Shakespearean, though in some ways, because the writer is a poet, he can actually use words in many different forms, from spoken word to poetry. He's just extraordinary. I think he's going to go a long way, and I'm so proud to have brought him to his Broadway debut with this play, which he's been working on, by the way, for the last 15 years. So this is like, you know, an overnight success, 15 years in the making, okay? And another thing about this play that really excites me is that we made represent a Black man writer who wrote it, a Black man who's directing it,
Nice.
2 Black producers who are producing it, and an entire cast of all African-American men. This is our story. This is my story. This is my life. This is all of us. And so if you come see that show and you don't see yourself somewhere in there, I suggest you get some therapy, because I mean, it's just about us. It's just all about us. So in addition to having all of those people in those various positions be part of the production, I also went out because we as African Americans are not often asked if they would like to invest in Broadway shows, right? In fact, most people in general don't even know that they can, or where the money comes from, or how it's raised, or anything. And why should we? We don't know it until we know it. And with this show, I brought in, through not only my own 3 producers who were working with me, I was helping them. All 3 of them made their Broadway debut as producers on this show, right? And so they then went out and found all these Black investors. So there was a whole crop of Black folks at every tier, every level of this show, right? And what I love about having African American investors is that they are the pipeline to becoming the lead producers down the line. Do you know what I mean? Because investors are really important to the story. And I tell people it's a moral imperative that Black men support our stories about us. In the same way, I have another play coming in March, where it's for colored girls who consider suicide when the rainbow is enough by Ntozake Shange. And it is all women. I mean, we got every women of color at every leadership, the writer, the director, the choreographer. I mean, except for one role, which is sound. We could not find a sister that was ready to do that. So we have a brother who's going to be playing that role. So everybody is something. You're a woman or you're Black, and ideally you should be both. So that show later. This show, I have to say, has been the most rewarding for me, not only because of all the reasons I've already stated, but because I know that a very extraordinary thing happened in the rehearsal space that no one knows, because you just see the end product. And all the men in that cast have said over and over and over again that they were brought into this room and allowed to work on stories that were about them, and more importantly, invited them to be vulnerable. And you know, we as African American men, we you know, we got a tough guy, we got hand, you know, whatever was something. You got vulnerable is a big ask for us, right? And they did it. They came to that and they opened their hearts up, their space, their whole, and they just went 99.5% in. Excuse me. So I'm so proud that I gave the opportunity, or had part of the power that had the opportunity to give these brothers an opportunity, not just to act in a play that was about, you know, Black men and their stories, but have a creative process that elevated their thinking, increased their ability to be vulnerable, to open. And as they go forward, I have told 3 of them, because 3 of them are making their Broadway debut, this is not normal. What you're doing here on Broadway is not normal at all. So you should just taste every second of it, because it's gonna be a while before you get to get a play where everything about it is Black, blackity, black, 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 right? And so join in, be part of this. And this is my, you know, issue to you guys, invitation, come in and support this show. And I pretty much can tell you, you will probably like this show. Let Derek speak about it because he knows more about it.
Ron, I'm going to disagree with you. They're not going to like it. They're going to love it.
They're going to, okay. I accept that. I take that. So yeah, absolutely. So I encourage you to go and open your mind and open your hearts to the stories that are being told. And I have to say also, because one of the things we did, we ran it out of town, God, almost 2-3 years ago now, at Syracuse and Baltimore Center Stage. And Syracuse was the whitest audience that you can hope for. There were maybe 3 or 4 Black folks in that room for any given performance. And I was really worried if they had a relationship to the story or the characters therein. And when I tell you those white folks love that show, they would walk up to us and say, how much money do you need? How can I help? They were in tears. And I said, oh, okay. And then I remembered something that Tom Holt said to me decades ago, and that most writers will articulate as well. You find the universality in the specificity, the specifics. So if you can focus on one subculture and go deep, you will find that the universal themes that you're exploring, everyone in the world can understand. So it's not like we say, oh, you know, come in and rev yourself up, or come in and try to relate. No, you come in from wherever you are and you open. If you listen and you allow yourself to be moved, everyone is moved by this brother's words. And these actors are setting that stage on fire. It's got beautiful, I can go on, but I'm gonna try to call back, but there's so much goodness on that stage. The sound, which you may not even hear, was perfectly set. You know, the music, and I don't know if y'all know who Luke James is, But brothers, when I tell you,
Yeah.
the first time
Yeah.
that man opened his mouth and sang,
Yeah.
instantly I started crying. And
Yeah.
I'm not one to cry very often, you know what I mean? And it was just like I was listening to an angel sing, like I never heard that sound before in my life. So if you don't know him, I suggest you Google him, because that brother was not only slam and dunk for the singing, he actually brought his A game for acting too. And I think dare say that everyone does. Everyone brings their A game. So if you are interested in getting access to house seats, which are the best seats in the house, they are the same price as retail prices, but they're just really good seats. And you can get them up until 96 hours before the show begins, and then they expire. Come in with someone, a young man. I recommend, if you have a nephew, a younger brother, or whatever, a teenager, I want every single African-American boy from the age of 12 to 17 to share in this story, because there's a lot to learn about who we are and what makes us tick. And again, going back to this idea of non-African Americans, what is happening is we feel like as storytellers, we're inviting those non-African Americans to come into our living room, have a seat, put your feet up, open your mind and heart, and you will find something you can learn that you probably didn't even know existed before. Things about us. So I just want to tell all of y'all, thank you. It's an honor to here to be with you guys. And if you have any questions about anything, I'm happy to talk about investing. If that's something you guys are interested in doing, great. I've always got opportunities for that. If you have any other questions about the show, please ask away.
Well, Ron, first of all, we want to tell you how much we celebrate you and commend you. I mean, Black is beautiful. And when you can pull us together to do something as fabulous and fantastic as this, we really celebrate you and we thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, awesome, awesome. So any brothers have a question for Ron? Raise your hand and just chime right in. Did I hear someone's voice? I know Paul actually saw it. So Paul, you want to say something?
Yeah,
I asked Paul to say something, and then Sam, and then Ron.
I don't want to give anything away. I had a lot of questions, and the first one I'll start with is how do we, let me think. I'm trying to phrase it correctly, but what I found really prolific about the play was everything you said. There was nothing that was inane at any moment. Everything in the play was significant. And I found myself relating to absolutely everyone on stage. And I can't tell you how many times I turned around to look at another brother and like, to signal like, yeah, I went through it. But what really stood out for me was the use or the lack thereof of props. So this was a play that I've been to Broadway plays, I've been to off-Broadway plays, and there was a lot, and I've seen huge productions. This was so profound because it was almost as if the lack of props was intentional because the words were so powerful, and having lights and etc. would detract from the words.
Absolutely.
So as I was sitting there watching it, I kept thinking to myself, wow, they're using, and I'll say the example of just simply having that basketball in his hands. And as he's telling the story, his words are so vivid. And my question was that intentional to go to not have like the props and the lights and like the mega production? Was that intentional? Was it something that was talked about, or was it something that kind of just happened?
No, that was very, very intentional. This show that you saw is the embodiment of the vision that the director had in mind. And because the writer was literally in the same room and literally giving out new pages of text every time they came in the room, God bless them. The idea was to not flood the stage with too many moving parts, because nothing kind of flew in. We were using very ordinary pieces as props. And what that does from an actress point of view is that, and from a viewer's point of view, is that you don't have anything distracting you. You don't have the beautiful tree that's come down and, oh, let's bring these couches in over here. And, oh, you got some, some no, it's like what I call a chair show, which is to say, if you saw the color purple, the last iteration, there was no set. There were only chairs hanging on a wall. And sometimes I meant in tables, sometimes I meant, it just changed. So yes, that what you observed was absolutely intentional, because what that says that you have to do as an audience member, you have to listen to the words. And that gives you an opportunity to focus all of your intention on that person who is on that stage. You don't have a whole bunch of, now, that is not to say that there weren't extraordinary design pieces of that show, because the only thing on the set is one billboard. That's it. I'm not gonna say anything about it, but it's a billboard. That's it. Mm-hmm. Chairs operate as all kinds of things in the show. Yes, people have some, headset and listen to music, but by and large, this story is important because the words carry that story. And so that was intentional.
That's awesome. That really put a lot of pressure on the actors. I mean, they have to go full blown out. So I can imagine how great that is. Thank you. Ron, we want to keep going because we want to get these questions answered. Sam, Ron, and then Ishmael.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, you said about bringing young brothers and it's a good brother show. I was wondering, because I'm definitely going to go, but my wife and my daughter, is it like really catchy for them?
Oh yeah, listen, I'm not trying to say that it's just the brothers, because the people who often buy the tickets for Broadway shows, black, white, green, or blue, are women. And most of the women come to see the show, bring their men. Men do not buy a lot of tickets on Broadway. They happen to go along because their wife or their girl says, oh, I want to see the show. And then they come along. But they all will get something from it. Because why? Because they will see their father. They will see their brother. They'll see their cousin. They'll see all of these men on stage and go, I know, yeah, that's, and they will be part of the story. And I often like to say that the audience is the eighth character, right? Because the audience with a song and repeat, a call and a repeat, there's this dynamic that goes on where I hope you felt it in the audience, where there is a conversation. The audience is not necessarily saying things, but you know how we are as African Americans. We look at plays and movies like they're participatory, game or something. Like if you feeling it, you're gonna go, You always hear that. Wow, there's a lot of that going on, right? And I love it. That means people are engaged. They're in the moment, and they aren't wandering somewhere looking at some other thing. Like I want to go see this play called China Doll with not Robert De Niro. I forget his name right now, but the play is going on. I'm in the balcony, and this is me. This is down there, and I'm like this. I wonder if that's gold leaf on that ceiling. No, that probably is paint. That's probably paint. That's not a good sign. That's not a good sign. If you don't have your eyes stuck on that stage, someone has not done their job. So absolutely, completely intentional.
So we'll bring the ladies. We'll definitely bring the ladies. Ron, and
yeah. Hey, you got a cool name. So I absolutely, I could tell you, I was there last night. And so a little bit about me, like I have an 11-year-old daughter who attends middle school that she just started this year, which is down the block from the Professional Performing Arts School. So I'm a theater dad. And so we've seen just about everything on Broadway. And I could tell you, last night, that was the first time she wanted to buy something. So she got a tote bag with her own money that was from her birthday. And she insisted because it was late. We had the day, she had the day off today because of Veterans Day. But I could echo the sentiments of what the other brothers shared. But I would add in terms of the stage and the lighting in particular, like the subway scene, when the poetic brother, I'm not going to give it away, sort of with it was magical. and the subway scene, I almost sort of smelled the subway, if that makes any sense. It's like, so you get inserted to into these scenes, into these, and being from Brooklyn, obviously, it it resonates like home. And so it was like a home cooked meal, and just sitting there and enjoying it. And one of the most beautiful things was, even outside of the theater. Again, I've seen a lot of shows, and I've never seen so many beautiful Black people lined up patiently in their beautiful Sunday's best on a Wednesday evening. And I was blessed to have that experience and share it with my daughter. But in terms of a question I had is like, hey, in terms of your journey, and as I'm trying to support my daughter in her endeavors, is this some sort of direction to point me towards to help her? Because when she sees this, she wants to be on stage, and she wants to. And she's actually, this evening, she was writing, and this was the first time she's looking to get into theater, but I've never seen her writing a script, and that's what she was doing today. And it wasn't, I don't even know if it was an assignment. So you impacted my life, is what I'm saying. And in terms of giving me some direction or some sort of arrow to point in this way. And I know there's other brothers that are sort of into theater and arts and film, but I don't really know where to go to support her. I don't. Well, I'm not
I don't
in theater.
I understand. I don't know if the school she attends has theater arts as part of the.
It is,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then there are a number of not-for-profits theaters in the city who have educational programs that, commercial. I'm a commercial producer, whereas something like an MTC, Manhattan Theater Club, Roundabout Theater, they bring kids in on the regular to see their shows and then have a conversation afterwards. So I would just check in with the not-for-profit Broadway houses and say, hey, I've got a kid who really seems to be interested in this this field of arts, and I think I just needed some ideas, some ways where we could channel her interest in a way that can help her grow as an artist. Because you have really inspired me by telling me that your daughter, who was like, you said 12, 11, right, was moved to start writing. I mean, this is where the next generation comes from, right? Like, this child could be the August Wilson of her age. Do you know what I mean? And it came because she was inspired by us telling our stories, which is exactly why it is critical that we tell our own stories for the children, the next generation that's coming down the pike. It's not, hey, I'm old, it ain't for me. No, I don't need that. I got it. But young people, however, they're trying to figure out where they are in the world, what they might want to do in terms of their career. And they see things that they didn't even know existed. Right. One of my favorite things to do when I meet with kids is talk about, it's not just actors who are involved in theater. There are people who do sign, music, composing. There are people who, call the show and tell people. There are people who built that, whatever you see on stage, right? And it's important for me to fill the pipeline of all those producers in the pipeline. We don't have enough sound people, as I said, in the sound line. All of those fields, we need young people to come in so that they will be the leaders that we are today, right? So for me, that's critically important. And this is a good time to do that, because a lot of these theaters, got beat up, by BIPOC, artistic vocalists and people who really care about the representation, and they all ran out and said, we need some Black content. I will have 2 shows, brand new shows on Broadway at the same time. In fact, if you stand in front of the Thoughts of a Colored Man and you look across the street, you'll see my other show, Ain't Too Proud. Like, literally, and down the street from there,
yeah, wonderful.
There's going to be another one that's going to be on the same street, right? So I'm in my one-man take it over Broadway is me. I'm going to make it a lot less white. That great white way is about to get a tan.
Excellent.
Ron, Ron,
Thank you so much, man.
so how do I'm retired now, but it was every day was like I had to prove myself. I had to, fight them off. How do you navigate in this culture as a
Resiliency is number one. And things have changed. Now there are about 7, maybe 8 Black producers on Broadway. Out of the hundreds and hundreds of producers, they're literally a handful. And for the first 8 or 9, 7, 8 years, I was the only Black person in the room. And I mean, in that room of 35 people, there was not a single Black person who was producing, not a single person who was doing any kind of creative, no advertising, marketing, the theater owners. Everybody is stark white, right? So then I would have to, I want to say, fight for my ideas, but had to make sure that I express my ideas, not to be the voice of all African Americans, but say, this is going to, you're going to fall and your face is going to fall in the dirt if you do this thing. This is not what we as African Americans, I can't tell you how many times I've had to say over and over and over and over and over again. Glad we're doing a New York Times full page color ad. Love it. Fabulous. Black folks are not watching that. They are not reading that in general. If you want to get Black folks, you need to tune into WBLS, where the Black people are. You got to go to where the Black people are. You can. They always say, why can't we get more Black people? Why? I don't understand why. And then they say, oh, it's probably because Black people can't afford the tickets for theater. And I go, do you know how much people spend to see Beyonce? And sell out stadiums, okay? So it's not like we don't have the money. We would spend the money. But guess what? If you build it, they will come, right? So you have to invite that audience by giving them stories that they can relate to, where you can see yourselves in. Do you know what I mean? And I love that one time it was a young cat, a man and a younger adult, I would say maybe 13 and 14. And they stopped in front of the theater and they were engaged in this deep conversation about masculinity and, its responsibility that was all kicked off by what they saw in the theater behind them. To me, that was the most moving moment for me, because I go, wow, we're not just telling a story. We are telling our story, and we're doing it for the right reason.
Yeah,
sorry,
awesome.
I get a little emotional around.
That's awesome. I don't blame you. But Ishmael, you had something you want to say?
I did. Thank you for your time, sir.
Puma.
Okay. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it, sir. First of all, thank you for creating that ecosystem in the theater. So how do you apply your playbook in other fields, like in STEM and other professions? So if you want to answer that.
Absolutely, I want to answer that. I have always been involved in whatever EDI opportunities there were in any part of my life, right? So when I got to HP, fresh out of college, and I was a software development engineer, I would bring Black folks together to have some beers, to talk so we can connect, because we were so few of us in that space. When I finally got to Microsoft, which was the whitest company I had ever been in, and here's a little anecdote. So they offered me the position and they said, we want to bring you back out. And I said, great. Now I would like to talk to, sure. I flew out there. I saw a documentation person, someone who's writer, someone who's a tester, something. So I got to the end of the day and I was like, so I didn't see or talk to any, I thought we were going to do this so that we can talk. I was the first Black product manager at Microsoft. How is that possible? In my generation, I was the first, which meant that I would go out and recruit, of course, at the national MFA BA program, the engineers, all that. And I remember the first time I went into those things, I walked in the door and it was a huge, huge booth that was there. And on the top, it said Microsoft, and my face 4 by 6 feet. And I'm like, oh God, I don't know why, but I felt like that's sad. That is really sad. That's how I'm looking at it, right? Because that's all you got. I am all the guy that you have right now. Okay. And I started a company called Blacks at Microsoft, which was to encourage kids to come into, on campus and learn, particularly if they're in STEM. If not, that's fine too. What are the opportunities in a technology company that you should consider or can consider? Do you know what I mean? Yes, there's documentation and they just writing. There's graphic artists. There's, composition folks who do composition. It's a whole ecosystem that no one would know unless you were exposed to it. So wherever I go, I was on the EDI committee at the Broadway League. I'm always all in when it comes to diversifying because I've always been one of the few or the only Black people in the room.
Wow, powerful. Puma.
Yes, sir, Ron. Thanks for being here. You mentioned something earlier. I haven't seen the part that what does that entail? How much money does it take to invest? That's something you can discuss like this, or you got to discuss that privately?
No. Works is that each particular production often has a floor for the minimum investment that they are looking for. And sometimes it's 25,000, sometimes it's 50, sometimes it's 100,000, depending on the show and depending on the producer. But you as a layperson who says, what, I'd like to invest in, Ron's got this new play for Colored Girls, I want to participate in it. And it's very easy. You just got to write a check for $25,000. And guess what? You got your seat at the table. So it's not $1 million, mind you, because a lot of people go, oh, I thought it was gonna make 250,000. There is a seat for that person as well. But in terms of investors who, if the show does well, will get share in the returns and the profits of it, that floor must be exceeded. And we just moved it, that floor from 50,000 to 25,000, because I had to convince my co-lead, who's a white woman, but she's a woman. I said, I'm trying to get more Black people in to invest. I said that there are not a lot of Black folks who can write that check for $100,000. And if they can, they're probably not going to write the check to me because they got a house in such and such. They got kids in this private school. Their money is accounted for, right? So I told her that we need to have a threshold that more people can cross, and therefore we will get and have the opportunity to diversify our investor pool, which is good for everybody. It's good for everybody because that will be the birthplace of diversity on Broadway, the Great White Way.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sure. Ron, you're doing incredible work, man. It's awesome what you're doing.
Thanks,
Paul,
brother.
Paul, you had something you wanted to say? You're muted.
Yeah, got it. So what advice can you give for up and coming writers, someone who wants to get into that space?
That's a very, very good question, actually. I always am a big fan of education, no matter what the field is, right?
Okay.
I think if you're going to be an actor, you need to go get and be classically trained because you need to be able to know how to work the words in your mouth whether it's Shakespeare, August Wilson, or anybody. The best thing that you can do to prepare yourself is to get classically trained. And why? Because there are a lot of kids who are getting classically trained that are dropped out of these schools every year. They're like by the thousands, right? And so you are doing yourself a disservice if you're saying, and which is not to say that you can't just write your own, you can, but I think that you need to have the information, the data, so that if you're going to break the rule, you intentionally break the rule. So there doesn't have to be the third act beginning at such and such a time in the script. No, as long as you know what the thing is, you can break it apart, do whatever you want with it. That being said, there are all kinds of, sorry. There are a lot of organizations around the city, not only if you're in high school, but of course the universities who teach writing courses, even the new school, you can take classes in writing, and a place where you don't have to go into a 4-year institution to figure out, what's the best way to structure a story for film, structure a story for the stage, structure a piece that's in short form or whatever the case might be. So it's very easy to find those projects, products, classes to do. It's literally just about really making the time and commitment to say, I'm going to go there because this is what I care about. And I'm going to focus my energy on that thing. And I will probably guarantee you that if you go after your passion, whatever that passion is, whether it's writing, it's singing, tap dancing, I don't know. I just want people to know that it's never too late. I didn't become an actor until I was 41 years old. Old dude, you know what I mean? And I used to get on about myself like, oh man, these people my age have spent 20 years out here in the field and I got to compete with them, blah, 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 blah. And then after a while, I kind of realized, you know what? Yeah, they do have that acting skills. But you know what I got? I have 20 years of life. And what does life bring to any art form? That's what you want. So yeah, and if you want some recommendations, let me know. Obviously I know a lot of writers, you know, who I can get recommendations from them about books or courses. They are plentiful if you look. They're out there.
Thank you. Robert and then Ishmael.
Thanks for coming on, Ron. I just had a quick one. How long will your play be? How long will your play be on Broadway? Because I still. And my son is 8 years old, so I would think about maybe trying to bring him there.
Well, here the show will run until one of two things happen. People start coming, or the theater says, we want this back because we feel like there's going to be a greater profit margin with this other show, right? So I don't think that they knew how not only this piece will resonate with a certain group of people like Black folks. Any given night, it's like 50% of the audience is Black to maybe 95. That is not normal. Everybody in this business wants that demographic to come in. And so many of those people who come to see our show have never seen a Broadway show at all, period. Wow. So to answer your question, I would say, were I you, I would try to get into that show just to make sure you're certain by Christmas. Maybe what you do is give them a Christmas present, 2 tickets to go see this show. I'd relate to it. I bet that would be a great gift for people once they redeem it and actually see the show.
Right. Okay. Because my son, he acts, and he's into that stuff, or stuff too, or whatever. So just it's good to just see it from a different point of view. And stuff like
Absolutely.
that to get a grasp of different areas, just not always on the big screens like the Marvels and stuff like that.
Exactly. And I love this inspiration that we've been talking about, that kids, they can go sit out in that space and look at what Black folks can do. Not only what the Black folks can do in terms of actors, but what the Black folks can do in terms of, singing or, producing, all that stuff about helping kids understand that there is a plethora of ways for you to get involved in the entertainment industry. It's not just about acting. We got to really stress that they're all, you see your kid, he likes to draw, I don't know, heroes and, characters like what is the name of that? Marvel, thank you. Right? They can say, I want to do comic books. I'm like, okay, that's cool. You know that you can also take this and you can do animation. But you can do this, and you can actually be a set designer. Or you can take, so that they know that there are other opportunities for them. Because if we don't tell them, they'll become adults and not have a clue as to what happens in a production to make that production come to life.
Thanks. Rashawn?
You muted, I think.
You muted.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. I was just wondering, because I'm also not in a position where I'm going to be able to make it to Broadway to see the show, but will there be a virtual viewing, or will it be on sale on DVD at any point or anything like that?
Well, I don't know where you live, but we hope to bring this on the road and tour it around the country, because this is the play that everyone around the country needs to see, Black, white, brown, whatever, because this is about healing, it's about celebration, it's about awareness, it's about so many things that this country needs in this fractured space that we're in right now. Do you know what I mean? We
Yeah.
might actually do, however, all that being said, we might capture it and do it like a number of shows have done, like Hamilton. They captured the production. They put cameras in there. They didn't, rejigger it at all. They just set cameras up. Personally, I think that if you're going to do that, you need to tailor it to the camera system that you're going to have, because it doesn't mean if you have 3 cameras that are set and can move, there's only so much you can do. You want to be able to focus on a person, a character, and then move the camera from a different angle to see the brother coming in to have this interaction. Do you know what I mean? So I hope that we can do a capture. When that's going to be, I don't know, but I would bet that I'll probably get our tour up and running before that capture happens. But we want both.
We want it all. We want it all.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hey, Brother Forbes.
Thank you. Ron, thanks for sharing tonight. It's always a pleasure hearing from you. My question is more so on the lines on the future of diversity on Broadway. So as the one who's had the pleasure of working on Broadway, I know that it's notoriously been difficult to diversify the audiences. I think a lot of shows struggle with that. And I think as of recently, there appears to be a sense of awakening on Broadway. And then the COVID, the racial pandemic in our world, the health pandemic in our world, there seems to be an awakening. Broadway went dark for a period of time. And we're seeing a great deal, more than ever, of diverse shows on Broadway. So as far as the future goes, do you feel that in order to continue for Broadway to be diverse, as far as the audience, it goes sort of more so of the content that is being shown and people seeing something they can relate to on stage? Is it a culture shift on Broadway? So what do you think is the key to ensuring that Broadway continues to be diverse going forward?
Yeah, cultural, that's beautifully, I mean, to use that phrase, if you don't mind borrowing it, because where we are now is that, like other industries where people were shaken by having white people out in the streets picketing and protesting because of what happened from George Floyd. When they all woke up and realized, oh, they're killing Black men. And we're like,
right.
Yeah, it's not new, but okay, right? So I think that there was another thing that happened in the arts. 400 artists wrote this letter to theater owners, 400 artists, like important actors and actresses, and that scared them. And that is the reason why every new play on Broadway this season, every new play is written by a person of color and about African-American stories. That's not happenstance. That's because they ran out like trying. Hey, I got someone who wanted me to bring another show that I did off Broadway. Is it ready? Can we put it on Broadway? There's no way that 10 years ago, I could possibly have 2 Black shows on Broadway, because there was this prevailing sentiment that, if you got one show on Broadway, well, you got another one? No, we got ours, we're good, because they certainly can't have 2 shows on Broadway about Black people. Of course, we know better. And now they're seeing that is not true, because we have 7 plays and we all are finding our audiences, right? And so this is going to be a testament to the fact that people are willing to come if you provide the opportunity and the invitation, right? So we had a D9 night. There may have been 5 white people in that audience, maybe, I'm not sure. Because I mean, I literally had to strain to say, I think that's a white man, I'm not sure, right? So for me, what I really want is accountability, because this is great. This is great. All these Black folks, Black stories, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. But I don't want this to be a flash in the pan. I don't want this to be, oh, we got our Black, we're good. And then next season, we go back to the same old that happened before. We need accountability so that we not just say, great to now, this year. How about 5 years from now? How about 10 years from now? Are you still being sensitive to sharing more stories about underrepresented communities that you have ignored? Because Asians are even worse. There's so few Asian-infused stories. Don't even get me started about Native American. They're hard to find, and even when they are, they will say the same thing they say about Black people. Well, that's a niche play. It's a niche market, and so, and I'm like, no, it's not a niche market. I'm telling you, if you do a great story, people will come to see that story. And hey, my thing is, on this one particular play, the New York Times, I would say, they just panned the show. Now, okay, New York Times, there was a time when if the New York panned your show, you were closing like the next day or two. Now they're not that sensitive. But I realized that we need to diversify every aspect of this business so that we have Black PR agents who know how to speak to and where to speak to people who look like us. That change and culture shift needs to happen, and we as people of color need to keep on them. I want to see statistics from this year and statistics next year where you can tell me how many more Black representatives do you have in the advertising agency? How many? Do you have one more, two more, three more? Do you have any, agency interns, that may not yet be ready, but are going to be in the pipeline once again? Do you know what I mean? I loved that there was an African-American paper, the Amsterdam News. When you read it versus the New York Times, the quote that came out of the Amsterdam News said, and I quote, "The most important play of the 21st century." Where you gonna go from there? They said, there you go, right? So play as an African-American woman, we'll talk about why that may be in another over cocktails, right? But the fact of the matter is, we are not going to be live or die based on what the New York Times says. Because guess what? What really works in bringing butts to seats is word of mouth. You can do as many ads as you want in the New York Times. And what's going to get butts in the seats is when someone goes, to Reverend Michaels and say, "Oh, Reverend Michaels, you need to go see this play. I saw it on Saturday night. Oh my God, it was so good." And then they see it. Oh, hear about it on WBLS. Oh, it's here on the subway bus. Oh, it's that multiple, and then they're hearing it from different people. I literally, every person I've talked to in the last 2 months who is outside of things about your show, and I'm like, damn, that's awesome. We use mainstream too. Like we were featured quite beautifully in NBC Nightly News. We were on beautiful presentation on Good Morning America. Wendy Williams show had 3-4 of our Black men on stage. Wow. So we are getting mainstream. Yeah. And the reason I feel we're getting mainstream is because people say we have got to pay more attention to these Black folks and other people. We can't ignore them anymore. Do you know what I mean?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Ishmael.
Did I answer your question? Did I answer? Because I go first.
Absolutely. Spot on. Thank you.
Ishmael?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I'm here. If you had the opportunity to do a bio play, who would you do it? Who would you do the play on and why?
It's a brother. I'm gonna forget his last name. It's this brother who, from the civil rights period, Maynard. He was the right hand of Dr. King. Bayard Saunders, is that right? Something about Bayard.
Rustin Bernard.
Rustin Bernard. There you go. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that assist. So that I would really like to know what that story is, because here's an African-American man who is at the deepest center of the civil rights movement and political action that's going on in this country, who is literally leading, writing speeches for Dr. King, who is working out strategies for how they do and where they do what they're going to do. And no one knows who he is. Because back then, because he was gay, people didn't want to be associated with someone who would happen to be Black and gay. So he worked under the radar. I would love to do his story. I'm doing a movie about the jazz era, and it's their characters in it. Like I'm getting old and forgetful these days. Duke Ellington and the guy he wrote a lot of songs for Duke Ellington. His name can't come to me right now. Not Buddy Bolden, though Buddy Bolden does appear in that play. I mean, in that film. It's going to come to me or not. Anyway, the point is that this was a guy who wrote all these songs, and the agreement that he had with Duke Ellington is that he would never get any credit for any of those songs. If you look up what's the A Train, there's whoever is credited for that, it's not the man who wrote it. And he got, in exchange for that, he got paid very handsomely. But if you didn't know, you would think all of those songs were written by Duke Ellington. And why was that? Because he wanted to live his true self, because he was gay and he was outwardly gay, and therefore he can't really be lifted up and shown as this is the person who is creating these amazing songs because of who he decided to love, or who he had to love, or whatever. So I would say that would be the first one. And then Jesus Christ.
And quick question, I don't know if you got a chance to see it, but it's on YouTube. I definitely recommend you guys check live in Harlem. And it was a debate against integration and segregation. It's on YouTube. If you type that in, it'll come up. So I'll definitely recommend you guys check that out.
It sounds familiar. Okay, I will. Thank you for the heads up. I will. Huh, okay, I'm sorry. I'm seeing some chats down here. Y'all keeping track whether these chats are? Okay, all the new brothers, please take time to fill out the survey.
Yeah, our regular chats. Ron, thank you. Anyone else have any questions for Ron? Yes, Joaquin.
Hey, man, thanks, brother. Appreciate the work you're doing, and I hope when I get to New York, I have a chance to check the play out for sure. But before you got introduced, man, I looked at you. I said, man, this guy looks just like an actor. This is before I know anything. So you have done some stuff in film. Are you the guy? Like,
well, I'm that guy. I'm that actor who you see, didn't probably know, but he's like, hey, he looks kind of familiar. Yeah. Producing most of my time. But I've done pretty much all the Law and Orders, Law and Order Criminal Intent, Law and Order SVU, the original Law and Order. I've done films like 27 Dresses. I was a recurring character on Marvel's The Defenders on Netflix. I'm always playing cops. I don't know why, but anyway, I was a detective on that show, and it paid very well, by the way. Very well. I had to go down to Atlanta for 10 days. Way to go. A lot of money. So yeah, I'm out there occasionally. You got to look for me, or you can go to IMDb and see my credits and then say, hey, let's go see if we can find this brother in this movie. Oh, was that him? I think that was him. Yep, he was there. Nope, let me go back.
So you've done a lot of movies.
I do way more movies and TV shows than I do plays. And part of that is because a play is a great deal more time required, right? Because if you do a play, you have to be somewhere in a room with all these people for like 4 weeks, right? And then you got to run the show for 4 weeks. And I just don't have that kind of time. But I can go to Atlanta for 10 days and do what I can do, and then I go on home and I'm finished, right? So I told my agent I can't do any more plays, especially out of town, and preferably not even in the city, because I got other things I'm trying to fry.
So Ron, out of the 7 characters in the play, which one is most talked about?
That's funny you should ask that, because there is no one particular person that people talk about. It depends on who the person is.
Okay.
And then often it has to do with the person that they most relate to. So Sam over here might tell you, yep, I'm wisdom. I'm always trying to give brothers, some understanding about what's been going on, what's happening in these streets these days. Oh, and then you get this young cat who's like, yeah, I'm closer, somewhere between love and lust. You know what I mean? So it really just depends on the person who's speaking and what frame of reference they have.
Okay, thanks. But Luke James really, I listened to some of his music after the interview, and he's amazing. Amazing. What a voice. What a voice. God.
Oh my God. And he's going to have to leave sooner rather than later. So that's why I say, if you want to get in by I don't know if you can do it December, because this is a show that I think it lives or dies by the performances.
Right,
and when Luke James goes, wherever he might go to do whatever he's going to be doing, we're going to be hurt by that from my point of view, but we could capture it and share that in the theater. But that one thing that he does as the only person who does what he's doing, singing, he's phenomenal. He has a whole nother dimension to the play because of what he is and what he's doing.
I will
Just,
see it before the year is out. I mean,
I
thank
recommend it.
you for that tip. Heads up. Before Ron leaves, anyone else have a question? I mean, we're very fortunate to have him here this evening with us. He's been dropping all these pearls. Yes, Paul.
My final
So
question.
I have a question.
Who's that? I have a question.
Javaro.
Javar.
Right. Go ahead,
So,
brother.
so all the hey, how are you, man? My name is Javar Long. Fortunate to be a police officer. So I'm doing a Netflix documentary. I'm working with Judy Burks. It's a musical with kids and officers. We're going to have the pleasure to perform at the Thanksgiving Day Parade this upcoming. So how do people reach you since of all your experience? My musical director is a great opera singer. So I'm always connecting people with people. And she just recently performed at Lincoln Center. How do people get you their work to be a part of the things that you're doing?
Well, they can submit through their representation. What we used to do, you could send me straight, here's my email address, and then people would send it to me. I would be inundated. And I would say 95% of those were not anywhere near ready to do anything with. So now I moved to the model of, well, if you have an agent that knows, they've already been vetted, right? Because you had to be good enough for the agency to rep you, then I will take a look at it. But honestly, the place that I find almost all of my content is by word of mouth. Someone says to me, because they know what I do, the kind of stories that I can tell, it's like, Ron, I think you need to meet this playwright who's blah, blah, blah. And they can explain to me why I should meet that playwright because they know who I am and what my value system is. So they can make that connection. So I would say that if you have an agent, you can send it to info@simonsays.entertainment.com. And once we start coming up above for air,
okay, got you.
We'll look at that because right now I'm not taking on any new nothing. I'm so overwhelmed and overworked with these shows. I can't even breathe.
So Ron, real quick, can you talk about?
So Simon Says at
info@simonsays.entertainment.com. And I will say this, for folks that are friends of friends, I will give pretty much anyone a 15-minute window of my time. So if you just want some ideas that you want to bring and talk about during that time period, I'm happy to listen to you. And you can tell my assistant, Ron told you so.
Got you.
We appreciate you, Ron.
All good. All good. All good.
Paul,
I think you're muted if you're talking.
I was just going to ask, do you have like a P.O. box?
I do. I can give you an ad. It's really pretty much I'm in the, okay, Kevin. Sorry, it's another brother that I met. Anyway, sorry. I'm getting distracted. Okay, hold on. So the business address is 228 Park Avenue South.
Got it. 228 Park Avenue South.
Yep, and it's suite 69442. And what I mean by suite, I mean box office shelf.
Gotcha.
That's my in the city representation.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
So Ron, we've been having these meetings for the last 18, 19 months where brothers have gotten on. We've had the privilege of just meeting great speakers like you to come in and join us. And we've been able to be vulnerable, bear our hearts out. Every other week, we have what's called a barbershop, which is really just open for questions, answers, and that sort. My question to you is, what would you like to say to this group for us to remember? You've been working with this great cast of 7 men. And like you said, they were able to be vulnerable. They got together and they just produced this incredible, show. What would you like to say to us? What can you say to us as we continue our journey as Black men in this culture?
A couple of things. The one that immediately comes to mind is that don't let anybody tell you it's too late. I said that early. I want to reiterate that because I don't care how many years you've been in whatever this career that you're in, but if you suddenly wake up and go, I really would like to compose music. Don't let nobody tell you you're 40 years old. It's too late for you to do composing music. You don't have time. That's some BS. Never let anybody tell you not to follow your passion. And therefore, the flip side of that is follow your passion. If you're passionate about what you're doing, great, awesome. Congratulations. But if you know that there is something else that you really would love to do because that's where your passion lies, don't let that just fall away and are at your deathbed and you're talking about, oh, I could have, I should have, oh, I would have. No. That's the reason I went into acting, right? And left, corporate America. I said, I do not want to be on my deathbed, mourning, oh, I should have done an actor. Oh, I could have been an actor. Oh, damn, I would. No, I don't have any regrets. When I came into acting, I'm like, I may fail, I may succeed, but whatever I do, I went for it. I just charged ahead. Just go, let the fear fall away. And you can still feel the fear, as that they say, feel the fear and do it anyway. That's what I did because I was wringing of hands, gnashing of teeth. Oh, I'm gonna make some money, and we're gonna move. Don't have to be back in New York doing this. Oh God, this is way too much. No, it's very simple. Follow your passion. And then the other thing is, since I'm a dad and I have 4 kids, I really encourage you, if they don't have the arts in their school, please find somewhere in whatever city that you're in that you can take your kids to learn some art form. I don't care if it's dance, I don't care if it's music, I don't care if it's painting, ceramics. It is clear that having that outreach, that skill to be immersed in an art form does nothing but help them grow exponentially. It helps. And we always want to cut the arts programs when money gets tight. And I'm like, in many ways, I know that there are people who are saved by their connection with the arts. Ain't nobody gonna be saved by taking an accounting class. No. You want to be saved. You do what you're going to tell you want to do what you want to do. You can follow your passion. You tell your kids, follow your passion. What do you want to do? And then how can I help you get there? And you may change your mind, and like I did 8, 9, 15 times by the time I got to high school. But by a process of elimination, I found out what I wanted to do, what I could do, and what I have no interest in at all. So fuel that flame. Fuel the flame of artistry in your kids. And I think they'll be so much happier as adults. So much happier.
Hey, Ron, I want to ask you a question as well. If we were trying to do a group, to see the show, in terms of what would be the discount? So what's the minimum, the smallest group you can bring, pretty much?
The smallest group is 8. And yep, I'd be more than somebody email me or whatever. I'd be more than happy to send you a document that is all about the pricing for group tickets.
Okay.
And if you want to buy, again, house seat, that you got to come through me and I'll connect you with the right person as well. And then there is also a code for discount that I can't remember. It's like a bunch of letters and so forth, which if you don't want to, or you can't bring in a group, but you want to see the show on a little less money, I can get you access to that code that you can use to get tickets for a lower price.
So for the group, is there a particular day that's the best day? If it's a matinee, Sunday matinee, or a Wednesday, are there any?
If there was a day that it's better to see the show, I would be very upset because that means they're not doing their all every single day, every single day. It's oh yeah, don't go to Tuesday because they really jacked up on Tuesdays. They just phoned it in on Tuesday. No, this was not. Kids don't care about the actors. You go when you want to go. You go when you can go. If you get your kids and you out for Wednesday matinee, go for it. Now, I will tell you this, Wednesday matinee are often where the blue hairs go, right? The older folks, because they don't want to be out in the dark. They have surface, issues around safety and blah, 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 blah. And they want to come together, in the daytime. Great. So usually it's a slightly older demographic, but the show's going to be the same. It's going to be good no matter who's in the audience.
I feel jealous. I haven't seen it already. I gotta go.
You gotta go. Come on now, Mike.
My wife, we're gonna all come down there. Yeah, and my sons. Yeah, okay. This is
I'm just telling you, if you got to get on a train, plane, or automobile, do yourself a favor and get your ass, pardon my French, get your
Say it.
behind.
This is real conversation, real talk.
You need to get your behind to New York, because there, once this cast is gone, you will never see that cast again. It will be other people who will also be good, but there is this intangible quality that these men who have invested their time in the room together, grew together, explored together, tried and failed together. And that's how and why they are giving the performances they're giving. So if you can, train, plane, automobile, swim over from Jersey, whatever you do, I encourage you to come by. I'm serious. Because listen, when you go see it, Mike, you're gonna be like, oh.
No, don't even say that. Don't put it out.
I'm just saying.
We're gonna try to set up a group. We're gonna try to get a group together to go see it as well.
Yeah. Now, that being said, I will tell you this, since you asked about days. Fridays and Saturdays there's often less ticket availability because people, they party, they want to get free time, blah, 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 and they don't want to go to school night, whatever. So a Tuesday, Wednesday evening performance or Thursday, you will probably have better ticket availability than you would the other days, because everyone wants to come in on Saturday. And then they're not coming on Saturday, they want to come in on Friday, right? Because they ain't got to work tomorrow the next day. So I will give you that piece of advice.
Ron, thanks for this rich conversation. This has been amazing. You've dropped a lot of pearls. Yeah, our fears are just gone now. We're ready. And
all right,
brothers,
now.
Last question before we end this meeting. Any thanks you want to say?
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
your
you
Very
so much.
inspiring.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks
Thank you,
for
Ron.
your time,
Really
Ron.
appreciate you coming. Great.
No worries.
Yeah.
Thank you guys
That
for
was
having me.
That was fantastic, brother. Thank you.
Thank you, man. I really thank you.
And the brothers that came on, because Ron is here, we're here every Thursday at 7:00. Please join us again. Great conversations are happening here. We really get to hear and to care for each other here in this space.
I love that. Keep
I
doing what y'all
appreciate
doing. Keep doing what y'all doing. It's a beautiful, as soon as I heard about real, oh my God, what can I do to help you guys? So is there anything I could ever do to help you guys do what you're doing? Because I applaud it and I think it's amazing. And why I didn't know about other organizations that were about that, I don't know. But ever, if you need something, let a brother know. Okay?
We will definitely keep you, in the know.
Okay, great.
Have a good night, Ron.
Keep us in the know as well. So you're always welcome to come in as well. We're here every Thursday, same Zoom. You're welcome to come in at any time as well.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll take you up on it. All right, guys. Listen, have a great night.
You too.
Thank you.
Keep going with your meeting. Good luck.
Thank
Bye.
you.
All right.
Thank you.
We're in the process of setting up our Real Dads Week. Derek, was there another announcement that you wanted to make?
We're going to meet actually Monday. We're meeting Monday at 7:30 to go through the Real Dads Week to talk about setting up committees. So we're definitely going to get information out to people, because we would really like for people to be a part of those committees to help us move Real Dads Week, which is going to be June 4th to June 11th.
And if those of you that did not see our production from Real Dads Week this year, we still have the link. If we have your email, Ishmael, we should send it out to everyone. It's still online. It was an incredible event, and we're going to outdo ourselves this year. You definitely want to be a part, and continue to invite the brothers to join us. We're here every Thursday at 7:00. And
Did you mention the spoken word event next Saturday?
No, we could bring it up. Also, KO is doing a spoken word event at New Rican Poets Cafe. And I'll send that out as well to people as well.
Cool. And Gandhi, thank you for joining, brother.
And Derek, if y'all get information for like the group pricing, or whenever y'all trying to do like a group to go see it or whatever, like you can put it in like the WhatsApp or send an email or whatever, something like that.
All right, so what we can do, we can talk about a day if people want to go see it, so we do it as a group.
Okay.
Probably if it's maybe that would probably be I know weekdays are kind of tough, so it'll probably have to be a Saturday.
Well,
Oh.
hey,
I was
Derek,
trying to go to the
I got
week.
4. I need 4 if you're going.
I was
So
looking. I
if
was
we
looking
want,
at.
listen, if we want to do it, if we want to set it up, I can set it up and then also talk to him about doing the cast, having the cast do a talk back.
That'd be great.
Yeah, and Derek, and also get the code if you can. You have the connection to get the
Yeah.
code. For those of us that can't make the group, we might go on our own. If we get that discount with the code, that'll be great.
Okay, we'll do.
Yeah, set it up, Derek. Come on, man.
We'll do.
What's up, Sam?
What's going on, twin?
What's going on?
That's your twin, Sam?
You
Yeah.
ain't know? But our life story is so much alike. It's incredible.
You got to find out what he's doing now, though. You got to keep up with him.
I said it was so much alike.
This is the best part. He's living
Yes, brother.
now. Love you, brothers. Thank you
All
so
right, man,
much.
love you guys. Kadir, man, thank you for joining, man.
Good night.
Great
good
being
night.
here. I'll
Stay
be here
blessed.
next Thursday. Good talk.
All right.
Yeah, have a good
night.
Always, I love and appreciate
Right.
y'all.
All right,
All
everybody.
right, man.
Peace, man. Love you guys.
Peace.
Thank
Good
you
night,
all.
guys.
Thank you.